Welcome. This is a recording of the messages and material that was covered in a healing circle in honor of Saint Germain's Ascension Day, May 1st, 2020. As always, we begin our circles with a prayer. And we welcome and extend our appreciation to Saint Germain, the angels of the violet flame, whose function is to serve mankind. Arcturus, one of the 7 Elohim of the angelic realm, representing the 7th ray, which is associated with the violet flame. The archangels Gabriel, Chamuel, Serachiel, Metatron, Angelique, and the archangel Zadkiel, who is the archangel of the violet flame and spiritual alchemy. We celebrate you all today and feel so grateful for your presence and ongoing guidance and assistance. We ask that the violet flame energies begin to flow to us at this time throughout this healing circle to all those listening to the recording. Thank you. We'll begin with who is Saint Germain. We typically refer to him as an ascended master. Ascended masters being people who became enlightened during one of their lives, but chose to continue to serve humanity while in the spiritual plane. And they do have the ability to come and go from this plane. His areas of expertise are alchemy, unconditional love, prophecy, and since the early 50s, he bears responsibility for the violet flame energies. Much has been written about him. References to his existence go back to Atlantis and through the 12th, 14th, 15th, 16th centuries until his ascension, stated to be May 1st, 1684. There is much conflicting data on Saint Germain and interesting data to the point where it is said he existed in the same lifetime as 2 different individuals. He has previously shared with me that the power of a master alchemist, which he is, allows one to morph into anything, which makes sense as the very meaning of alchemy is the act of changing one substance to another. As I was preparing for this circle, and I wanted to do things that would be what he would request, not just provide a lot of information about him, but what would his guidance be right now. So on, I think it was April 24th, I, just asked of him that I wanted his guidance for this circle and in preparing the circle. So what happened, at the same time that was going on, I was receiving back on April 25th, I was receiving the archangels at noon from a hosting someone was doing during the week. So what happened, at noon, I opened the door. That's part of the lovely ceremony of hosting the angels. And what happened was a number of additional guests came in. And it was everyone that you heard me mention in the opening prayer. So that day was interesting. I was, being guided to really minimize in the healing space, relocating things, bring things from other parts of the house into the healing space. So that was pretty much my day on the 25th. On the 26th was when the conversations began, and I will, share with you all of the messages that he gave. So, starting in the early morning on April 26th, he said, "The violet flame was born out of creation as a means to transmute lower energies that do not support the vision of creation." Hearing my question about that vision, he responded, "The vision of creation being expressions of love." He continued, "We, humanity, are each responsible in some measure for what we see happening. We each affect the whole." The next day, he said, "We, humanity, are so accustomed to living in a state of conflict that it is difficult to imagine a state of bliss beyond a fleeting moment." Now, what was interesting next is that I have found that my communication with him has become, and I'll use the word instantaneous lately. The thought is barely in my mind, the question is barely in my mind, and he is already answering it. So what he said next made me relate, to that feeling. He said, "It is in the freedom of telepathic communication with others that you, humanity, can realize the negative impact of thought, its immediacy. Your choice would become the alternative, which is bliss." So he's saying, if we knew really what we're doing and how we're affecting the whole just by our thoughts, we would make another choice, all right? Not to think the way we were, perhaps. He continued, "In your human experience with so many creators, you have chaos. One's own intentions become so important that you lose sight of living in harmony." He continued, "The message is simple, as it has always been." He then pointed me to things that I've read and heard before, all echoing this idea of oneness. From A Course in Miracles, the phrase, "Everyone is special and no one is special," meaning we're all the same. There's a verse from a prayer that's titled Affirmation of the Disciple, and it reads, "I know myself as one in service with all great souls. A soul, I walk on earth. I represent the one." The word "one" is in quotes, again referring to that oneness that we are all a part of. For example, waves in the ocean, sunbeams. We are not separate. We are not separate from the ocean. We are not separate from the sun. We're extensions of that. And the same with consciousness. We are all extensions of the same consciousness. He then brought my attention to Rumi's poem, which is titled A Great Wagon. There's a line in that poem that is extremely well known. It says, "Out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there." And that again is taking us to that place beyond what we, live in here and what exists there. So there was a lot more of a discussion with him between this phrasing of wrongdoing and right doing. He did lead me to some information, some research. Those words, the use of those particular words in that translation of the poem, is the translation of Coleman Bark, and that's really very widely quoted. But he pointed me to a different translation, a different take on those words, wrongdoing and right doing. And that said, beyond both the practice of religious faith and unbelief in these practices, there is a field where we will meet, united in universal love that erases all things and all people. So, on face value, the words wrongdoing and right doing seemed a little misleading. It was noted by many others in this, what I was reading, that right doing and wrongdoing are more accurately translated as belief and unbelief, or religion and unbelief in that practice. In our present awareness, we typically see these two concepts as different, even opposite. In the way Rumi has experienced these thoughts, they are not in conflict. Each one is neither good nor bad, and instead are part of a unity like the yin and yang symbol. One would not coexist without the other. So the field is the gathering place. Love overcomes what would seem to be an apparent difference in these two aspects of the human experience. In that place, differences no longer have their former distinction, and they no longer have any value. So at that point, we did and we will right now, go into our first meditation. We will hear the entire middle verse of the Rumi poem called A Great Wagon. So I would ask you to settle yourself for a brief meditation. Just notice the breath. Do not try to control it. Allow yourself to be where you are. And keeping what we have discussed in mind, let us listen to that verse. Out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there. When the soul lies down in that grass, the world is too full to talk about. Ideas, language, even the phrase each other doesn't make any sense. The breeze at dawn has secrets to tell you. Don't go back to sleep. You must ask for what you really want. Don't go back to sleep. People are going back and forth across the doorsill, where the two worlds touch. The door is round and open. Don't go back to sleep. Just allow yourself to bring your awareness back to your physical surroundings. And we will continue with the conversation I had with Saint Germain. The next day, I asked him, what aspect of you should we embrace to be in service? His response was, truth. I said, truth is an elusive term here. And he replied, there is one truth, love. So my question was, the next meditation, should that bring us to a space of universal love? And he replied, yes. I asked, and the violet flame in relation to this? He replied, it is a tool in clearing what is less than love. Later that night, I just posed the question, how do we apply that? How do we put that in action? The next morning, as I began my morning practice, he said, imagine letting go of anger, worry, fear, self-concern, and then embracing all humanity. Clearly, he wanted us again to think as one. What I do affects you. What you do affects me. And this, of course, is magnified by all the creators that he spoke of that are here. So it is very important that we think about how we affect each other. Is this really what we'd want? So the next day we had a slightly different conversation. We were discussing how it's easy to get caught up in things that are going on, especially right now. Some of the things that are being said, it's very difficult to sit back, to not say anything. And I said to him, if we see a fire, don't we need to call the fire department and save lives? He said, on that level of cause, of course. It's the other bickering that is petty and unnecessary. Again, it affects the whole. And I don't even know what question I was forming in my mind at that time, but he replied and he said, judgment is important. So we need to be mindful, clearly. I then asked him, how can we ease the grief process? Because everywhere we look today, we see people suffering. And he said something very interesting. He said that, meaning the grief, is what you see acting out in all forms. He then proceeded to put these images in my mind. It was like a slideshow of things that I have seen before. It started with the images of angry protests and the pain of loss, fear in someone's face, confusion in another. And he said, they are grieving what they knew. That was so interesting to me, because all of a sudden it just put a different perspective on those images. I recalled the way I felt at those first moments when I saw those images, especially the ones of the people that were angry. I really never thought of them as grieving. In that moment, they may not even realize that's what they're doing. But he was very clear that it is grief that is at the root of those actions. So it certainly gives us a lot of food for thought. Safety is important. It's critical. We all look out for each other. But there is a different feeling that I approach it with now. I then started to say to him, my fear is, and literally he cut me off in mid-thought and said, that only adds to the fear on the planet. So really trying to get me to be mindful of the words I use, right? How long have we heard that, right? Thoughts are powerful, words are powerful. He was emphasizing that at the moment. So I then asked him, what should we do to be in service? And he said, surround what you see in violet fire. So all the grief, the sadness, the anger, all of those things. To have that be how we proceed. See it with that beautiful violet mist, and you may see it very differently. Just allow whatever image comes to your mind. Know that there is an aspect in the center of a beautiful gold, such a lovely gold color. And that seems to be the very healing aspect, that combination of that beautiful violet flame with the gold light as well. And he pointed out to me, I had been given and was using some golden topaz rough crystal, and he pointed out to me that was the purpose of working in conjunction with the golden topaz. So calling on using violet flame energy, but working with the golden topaz as well. The image that you see for this recording. That image shows the golden topaz rough pieces arranged in and I'll call it a grid. Anytime you put more than one crystal next to each other, you've formed a grid. And I just love the, the beautiful image, the shape that I was guided to create. So if you have golden topaz, if you have amethyst, and you like to work with crystal energy, it's a wonderful time to use those both. So what we're going to do now is our second meditation. And in this meditation, I'm going to read excerpts from the prayer that I referred to before, the affirmation of the disciple. Now, I cannot attribute this to anyone, to an author. It is shown as author unknown. But it is truly lovely, and it really speaks to all of the things that Saint Germain had said during this week, all the things he wanted shared in this healing circle. It brings us to this realization, to this knowing that we are all one. We are all one. While we feel separate because we stand in these separate physical bodies, we are not. And we do need to think about each other. We do need to make decisions that way so that we all can live in that blissful state that Saint Germain referred to. So let's settle again for meditation. And this time, with each breath, just bring your awareness further and further into your center. Have an awareness of your heart space. Of your mind, of the crown chakra. And also your connection to the earth. Know that you are a very vital link between the divine energies and the earth. And now I ask you to create in your mind and heart an energetic circle with all those in attendance. And I say all those in attendance, those who were here yesterday on May 1st for that live circle, and all of those who will listen to this recording. Allow yourself to feel that community. And now I ask you to energetically invite your friends and your loved ones in the circle. They may still be with us in this life. They may have crossed over. But invite them all. And what you may notice happening is some seem to just show up before you even mention their name. They're with you. And now we'll do what Saint Germain suggested. Imagine letting go of anger, worry, fear, self-concern, and now embrace not only this beautiful circle that you've created, but all humanity. For the next few moments, just allow yourself to connect with all the energies. With all we have discussed in your heart and in your mind, silently repeat the following. I am a point of light within a greater light. I am a strand of loving energy within the stream of divine love. I strive for understanding. Let wisdom take the place of knowledge. Let the master of my life, my God presence, throw light on others through me. I implement divine will by love, by turning towards the field of service. I am a messenger of love and light. I do not walk alone. I know myself as one in service with all great souls. A soul, I walk on earth. I represent the One. Give me your hand and tread the path with me. Let peace and love prevail on earth, now and forever. images that are in your mind to begin to dissolve. With the next few out breaths, bring yourself back into the body. Bring your awareness firmly into the physical body. And as you're ready, you can begin to move and stretch and allow your eyes to gently float open. Saint Germain's message is about love. It is about our oneness. It is about thinking of each other. It's also recognizing what powerful creators we are. And his urging is to keep that in a very positive direction. I would invite you to call on all the beautiful spiritual beings that have been with us for this circle. Saint Germain, the angels of the violet flame, Arcturus, the Elohim of the seventh ray, the archangels Gabriel, Shamuel, Zerachiel, Metatron, Angelique, and the archangel Zadkiel. I hope this circle has been helpful for you. It does give us much food for thought. Remember, we are not perfect. We will make mistakes. All we need is a willingness to correct the course again. And all we need to do is ask them for their help. Saying I'm willing is everything. Thank you for participating, and I wish you all well and all the love that there is.